Good morning, students. How are you all? We have already read some of the lines from Thomas Gray's Elegy written in a country churchyard. Let's continue the poem. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their teams afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys in destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, awaits alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb no trophies raise, where through the long drawn aisle and fetid vault the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? Perhaps in this neglected sport is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed, or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. But knowledge, to their eyes her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage, and froze the genial current of the soul. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yields. Their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. That how jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. These lines contain a description of the humble toil of these men during their lifetime. Each line of this stanza is a picture by itself, bringing before our mind's eye the men and their daily work. When they were alive, these men used to plough the land and reap the harvest year after year. Even the hardest soil used to yield to their plough, with which they furrowed the earth, and many times did they cut the crop with their sickles. They cheerfully used to drive their teams of horses or oxen harnessed together for work to their fields to till the land, to cultivate the land. And with the powerful strokes of their axes, they used to cut down the trees in the woods. Their work was toilsome and hard, but they did it cheerfully and light-heartedly. So in these lines, the poet extols the virtue of an agricultural laborer, of a farmer. The poet here enumerates various actions and deeds performed by a rural person, by a villager, by a farmer, by an agricultural laborer. So these are the works that they did with utmost labor. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. In these lines, the poet personifies ambition and grandeur. And he says that during their lifetime, these men performed useful labor, enjoyed simple and ordinary pleasures, and lived unknown, inconspicuous lives. Ambitious persons would perhaps think it a poor record. Ambitious persons who are haughty, who are proud of their wealth, of their riches, they would be amused by this unimpressive performance. It is true that these men did not set the Thames on fire, but let not ambitious persons laugh at the way of life of these humble men. Let not these persons who hold high positions and who affect great pomp and show, listen with a scornful smile to the brief and simple life story of poor people. In short, let not the ambitious and the grand persons, the people who hold grandeur, grandeur is their part of life, let not amuse them with an attitude of contempt towards the humble folk who lie buried in this churchyard. So the poet here warns the rich people, the haughty people, the people, aristocratic people who are proud of their wealth, of their position. They mock at, they laugh at the simple joys, the humble labor of the poor people, of the villagers. The poet here warns them not to laugh at them. The poet says that their labor might seem insignificant to the rich people, but their labor, their efforts were fruitful because they gave food to each and every one. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, awaits alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. Heraldry. Heraldry means the science of genealogy. Genealogy means a person's descent, a person's family history. All great families, all famous families, they have a very long queue of genealogy. They keep record of their fathers, grandfathers, and great grandfathers, and they are proud of their heritage. So that is what is meant by heraldry. That is the science which deals with family descent. The boast of heraldry. Some people make boastful comments about their families, that their family is very old. The pride of long descent, the claim of belonging to a high and ancient family, the pomp of power. Power, the powerful people, politicians, and big officers, and rich people, big businessmen, they show off their power, the display of authority, the show of power. That is what is meant by the pomp of power. The inevitable hour, which cannot be denied, which cannot be escaped, the hour of death, which cannot be avoided, death which must come to all, irrespective of family connections or status or financial position. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. This is a very famous line and is often quoted. The meaning is that even a career of victory and conquest ultimately ends in death. A man may win glory in his life by his warlike deeds or spectacular exploits, but he must at last be overtaken by death. All one's record of struggle and achievement becomes meaningless in the face of death. The paths of glory here means the life of conquest and military exploits. It doesn't matter that a man performs many glorious deeds and he achieves very fame and a celebrity status. It doesn't mean anything, because at the end of the day he has to die, he or she has to die. So every person who is born must die. So this is the idea. Irrespective of his or her glorious deeds, that person must go to the grave, go into his grave, in his or her grave, at the end of the day. So in this famous stanza, the poet expresses a universal truth, that death conquers all. Death is no respecter of high birth or high position, nor can beauty or wealth avail against death. The pride of long descent, the display of authority, the gift of beauty, the possession of wealth, all these are as nothing before death, which is all powerful and all conquering. Even a career of victory and conquest, warlike deeds and military exploits must in the long run end in death. This stanza is very appealing because of the home truth that it contains. We are at once reminded of Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Hitler, and all others of their category. They were very powerful leaders, but ultimately they died. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb nor trophies raise, where through the long drawn aisle and fretted vault, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. In this stanza, the poet addresses the proud people and asks them not to blame these humble dead if friends and relations, their relatives, did not erect any monuments to keep their memory alive. What does it matter if, how does it matter if no monuments like statues, etc., were erected inside the church with its long corridor, its arched roof, ornamented roof with carvings, and its high sounding sacred music of the organ of the choir? The idea is that it does not matter if no urns have been represented on the tombs of these dead people, or if no lifelike statues of them, have been placed inside the church along the aisle to keep their memory alive. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? Here again, honor and flattery have been personified, and death has also been personified. Storied urn. Urn is a kind of vessel in which the ashes of the dead person are kept. Storied means on which his life story or the deeds which he performed is engraved on it, is engraved on the urn. So when rich people die, monuments or memorials are erected to keep their memory alive. Lifelike statues of such persons may be placed inside the church as a symbolic representation, or a symbolic representation of an urn may be made on their tombstones depicting the story of their lives. The poet, however, says that such monuments serve little purpose. No matter how lifelike a statue may be, or how vividly a dead man's life may be depicted on an urn, it is impossible to bring back the departed soul to its body. Likewise, tributes paid to a man after his death will not in the least stir his dust in the grave. And words of flattery will fail to please the dead man because he can no longer hear any sound. Neither speeches made in honor of a dead man can restore him to life, nor the praise showered upon him can give him any pleasure. So the idea here is that death is a leveler. It brings to an equal level all people, irrespective of the positions that they held during their lifetime, irrespective of the money they earned during their lifetime. Whether the person is rich or poor, he must die one day. So the trophies, money, statues, storied urns, all these things, or any kind of honor paid to a rich man or a celebrity, all these things are meaningless because death does not understand the language of flattery. Perhaps in this neglected sport is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed, or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. The idea in this stanza is that perhaps some persons, some people who were endowed by nature with high abilities, lie buried in this unknown, obscure country churchyard. Persons whose gifts did not come to light for want of opportunity because they did not get any opportunity to show their talents. So, because of the lack of opportunity to show their talents lie buried. They remain obscured, they remain unknown. It is quite possible that someone who lies buried here, whose heart was full of a divine inspiration, or who was fit to rule as a sovereign, or one who could have developed into a great musician. The poet imagines that under more favorable circumstances, the latent gifts of these persons might have found scope for exercise. One of these persons might have become a religious prophet, another a great emperor, and yet another a great poet or musician. So, this is what the idea of this passage, of this stanza is. But knowledge to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage, and froze the genial current of the soul. Again, knowledge has been personified here. The men lying buried in their graves had no opportunity for education, so whatever gifts they had, they remained undeveloped. The vast accumulated knowledge of centuries remained a closed book to them, and they lived their lives in complete ignorance because of their want of education. Poverty was a severe handicap to them because it did not allow them to develop their holy ardor and the generous impulses of their hearts. Poverty had a benumbing effect upon their noble instincts, and their poverty dried up their religious enthusiasm or their spiritual ardor. So, knowledge has been personified here, and the idea of this stanza is that because these people could not go to schools, colleges, and universities because they were poor, they were villagers, they belonged to rural areas, they were the children of agricultural laborers or farmers, and because they did not have any opportunity to go to schools, colleges, and universities, they were not educated, they could not educate themselves. And because of the lack of education, they could not develop their talents, they could not groom themselves. And in the absence of grooming and in the absence of development of their talents, they could not use them, and they remained poor. So that is why the rich people, the people who are proud of their riches, who are proud of their heritage, their family heritage, their long descent, and their celebrity status, they should not mock the humble joys, the labors, the efforts of the poor people. Because had the poor people received education, had they the opportunity of developing their talents, they could also have risen to those heights where the rich people are, where the famous people are today. So this is the idea of these stanzas which we have studied today, and the rest of the poem we will discuss in our next lecture. Thank you for listening and watching the video.